What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be doing things to look for when buying a used car. We've gotten this question asked a lot in our videos, so we said why not make a video on it. Keep in mind, I did not do this when it came down to my car. I actually flew down to Long Beach to pick it up, so it was either buy the car or you have no ride back home and you're 8 hours out. So this is just things to keep in mind when buying a used car. So let's get started. First off, we're going to go ahead and look under the hood. So pop the hood. So the first thing you want to do when looking at a used car is popping the hood and checking all the fluids. So coolant, power steering, transmission fluid is in the back over there. That usually should be like a reddish color. You also have your brake fluid back there, and then your windshield wiper fluid. And then the most crucial part is checking the oil levels and the color of the oil. Now I tend to pay attention to fluid levels because that tells you a lot about the owner. So if you have low power steering fluid, low coolant, low windshield wiper fluid, that kind of tells you that the owner does not maintain the car properly. So why would you think that the oil levels are where they're supposed to be? So with that being said, the next thing you want to look for in a used car is any type of leaks. So in my case, valve covers, you want to look at those tops of the block here, see if there's any oil seeping through. Same thing for this side. You also want to try and get under the car, check out for any leaks at all. In my case, the axle boots are leaking on this car, so that's something that I need to get fixed. So yeah, if you can, just get the car on some ramps or jack it up and get under there and see if you have any leaks underneath. Now obviously with an older car like this, you're bound to have leaks at some point. It just depends if you want to be the one responsible of taking care of those. That leads kind of to the next thing. When you're buying a car like myself, where it is over 100,000 miles and the 100,000 mile maintenance hasn't been done, you be aware that you will be taking care of that. So like in my case, valve cover gaskets, timing belt, water pump, spark plugs, axles, brakes, all that stuff will be taken care of by you if you decide to buy a car that is around 100,000 miles. Now there's obviously pros and cons to buying a car with 100,000 miles or less. You're getting less mileage, you will be taking care of the maintenance, but in my case I kind of like that because I know what I'm replacing on the car. Anyone can tell you that they replaced timing belt, water pump, but if they don't have records showing that, then you really don't know if it was replaced or not. So the next thing is you want to look for maintenance records. If the owner has maintenance records on the car, then that is a huge plus, because then you have proof that the maintenance was done on the car. So make sure when you're buying a used car to ask the owner if they have any maintenance records whatsoever on the car. That'll help out a lot. The next thing you guys want to look for when buying a used car is buying a used car with mods. So in my case, I have an aluminum Mishimoto radiator and an intake. That's fine because that's all I have. Besides that, the car is completely stock. But from my experience and being young and dumb in high school, I bought a bug-eye that was modded. It was not stock at all, but it wasn't tuned for anything. So 3 months later, you guys can guess it, blown motor. So you definitely want to keep an eye out for that because it could cost you a lot of money. Next thing I would check inside the motor is hoses, clamps, make sure they're on good. You also want to check your belts, make sure there's no tears or rips in there. But that's pretty much it for underneath the hood. That's what I would check. So under the hood, I think that's pretty much it. If you do have a trusted mechanic that you can bring along with you, I would really recommend that, because then they can go ahead and do like a compression test on the cylinders. Also, I forgot, you can also check your spark plugs, see how they're doing. But I think for under the hood, that's about it. If I am forgetting something, make sure to comment down below. I know I might be forgetting a couple things here and there, but that's kind of what you want to look for when it comes to under the hood. So now moving on to the outside of the car, the one thing you want to look for is rust. So rust is really expensive to fix. It is a pain. You don't want to deal with it. I would stay away from a car that had rust, but places where they would form would be right here on the fender. Bug-eyes usually have this black liner right here that you want to remove. or else it'll trap water in there and it'll rust very fast. Diego's bug eye actually formed rust right here, but that was because when the fenders were rolled, the paint was chipped, and then winter came along and rusted his fender on the lip right here. So not a big deal in that case because we are planning something big, but you guys will have to wait for that. But the other thing you want to look for is scratches, dings on the car. Not necessarily something that would stop you from buying the car, but it's something that you could bring up to the owner and maybe bring the price down. So most of the things on the outside of the car or the interior necessarily, like I said, won't stop you from buying the car, but if it comes down to it, you can always bring the price down that way. That way, when you fix those things, it won't be costing you more money than it should. So you also want to check the tire tread. If your tires are balling out, make sure to bring that up to the owner. Maybe drop 500 bucks or something to get new tires. So as for the interior goes, you just want to make sure that the seats don't have tears in them, the carpet don't have tear in them. You want to check your windows, make sure they all work. Check out your lights, so blinkers, brake lights, all that stuff. Make sure your windshield wipers work. All these things, like I said, won't stop you from buying the car, but it's something you can bring up to the owner, drop the price. That always helps. Also, I would look at the mileage of the car. Like I said, 100,000 miles, you're gonna be doing maintenance work, but I also wouldn't go too high on mileage. If I would say my most would be 130, 140,000 miles. Anything over that, I would kind of just stay away from and avoid. That's just me. Anyone else out there may not have an issue with that. And while you're in here checking out the interior, I would plug in an OBD reader down here. Make sure the car isn't throwing any codes, because if it is, then that's a problem. Might not be a huge problem, but you definitely want to do that when checking out a car. So that's pretty much it. That's what I can think of when buying a used car. Interior, tears in the seats, tears in the carpet. Make sure you check any codes. If there's a check engine light, you want to check power windows, make sure they work, make sure there's nothing electrically wrong with the car. As for under the hood, oil, fluids, leaks, aftermarket parts, stay away from those. But that's kind of everything. And there is actually one thing that I forgot, and that is the status of the title. So if it's a salvage title, that means that it was either stolen and then they found it, or it had flood damage, or it was in an accident where they couldn't fix the car because the cost of fixing it would overpass the price of the car, the value of the car. I personally would just stay away from them, because you also want to look out for a car if it's been in an accident. If it has frame damage, not only does it affect your safety when inside the vehicle, but it's also really a pain to deal with a car with frame damage. I was hit once in my old Subaru Impreza, and I had this whole frame right here, or bar, dented in, and my hood wouldn't close properly. I had to tie it down, and I couldn't put a grill in, so it was just kind of a pain to deal with that. So if I were you guys, I would stay away from a car with frame damage. You can also come back here in the trunk area and pull this lining out and make sure that there is no damage to the frame inside of here or inside of here. I had the bug I used to have actually had this piece in here completely dented in. Luckily, most of it was able to be pushed back out and had no problem, but I would just stay away from cars that have frame damage. You just don't really want to deal with it. Of course, I keep remembering things as I'm driving away. I forgot to add that you should test drive the car before you make a final decision. Preferably take it on a freeway, hit freeway speeds. If the car runs good, no leaks, nothing like that, then I think it's a perfect car. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate the support from everyone. If you guys have any questions or this video helped you at all, make sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below. We will catch you guys in the next video. We have some pretty exciting stuff for next video, so stay tuned for that. But we will catch you until next time. Peace out, guys.